Hey, Roy.
Hey, good evening, good evening. Good evening, Virgin Islands again. Hey, you got Mr. Bombastic and Gino. This show here,
Farrell.
this show here is gonna be chain. You guys keep it locked, right? Listen, this show called The Real Ting. Why we call it The Real Ting? Because we're keeping it real. This is a real thing because we're keeping it real. If you remember, Eugene and I, we run a lot of different shows. You hear us and you one with Vantage Point. You hear us with Inside Track. So you know when we come in with a real thing. But you know today we want to talk a little bit about domestic violence and what domestic violence is all about. And of course, this is a discussion that we need to have right now in the community because we have seen a lot of incidents
with domestic violence. And again, domestic violence is serious. It's all around us. And we just have to know how to manage our situation disputes when it comes to having a conversation or you're having dialogue and you have a disagreement between your spouse or significant other or family members. We have to learn to accept people's opinion, whether or not they agree or disagree.
You're giving them too much already. Good.
Well, we're talking about domestic violence.
So let's start off, right? This is our inaugural show. This
Yes,
is the
ma'am.
first show that Roy and I will be hosting, the first of many. And again, is the real thing.
Mhm.
Talking about his side. Now that don't mean that we're not gonna have females coming on our show. Just Roy and I today. This is the first show, but we're gonna have different guests coming in. They're gonna be speaking to you about different topics, but the way that men see things.
Mhm.
Okay? Because in the past we did the Vantage Point, and it was a great hit. And we said, you know what, let's take it to the next level. So right now we're doing this podcast. And as you can see in the promo and the pre, that we're talking about men issues. But today, Roy wanted to talk about domestic violence. Roy is a big domestic violence advocate. He is against it. I'm against it. And we need to make sure that we speak about this issue. And we're going to talk about how some ways that we could solve it. So, Roy, you're a specialist on this.
I know, Gino. Even when I was working in law enforcement, I used to actually go to a lot of different schools and even to the university to talk about domestic violence, especially during Red Ribbon Week and stuff. And so yes, we know that domestic violence was something that played many areas in the world today, many communities, many neighborhoods, many schools, many households, neighborhoods. So it's something that is real that we have to live with.
Yeah.
And so before we really get into discussion, I want to ask the question and then we could answer it, Eugene. What is really domestic violence and what domestic violence is really about?
Well, before we go, right, you also can communicate with us on the Facebook Live. We monitor in the live, and if you want to basically comment, you can comment. This is what we're gonna do for this show, and then as we move in to the podcast, as it starts to develop, we're gonna have a live call in. Okay. So domestic violence. What is domestic violence? Tell us what the definition of domestic violence is.
Let's look at the picture. Let's look at the whole picture. Let's look at the spectrum. Let's look at the word domestic violence. So when we're talking about domestic, we're talking about something that we will say something home, something that is in our community, something that we can reflect, that is close to us. So if we're talking about terrorism and we say domestic terrorism, we mean that some organization within our jurisdiction is posing a threat to our environment, to our community. So we understanding the term domestic. So when we use domestic violence now, we're talking about something that home closest to us with violence. So we're looking at domestic violence. So let's look at the word domestic violence. It entails family. It entails family disputes. It entails brother and sister. cousins, anything within the family circle, spouse, your wife, husband, your boyfriend, girlfriend, even your exes. Your exes is also a part of that circle because that's somebody that you've been with before. So they will also be considered part of domestic violence. So understanding the domestic violence part of it. So let's look at violence. What is violence?
Violence. Well, is any act committing harm, whether it's verbal, okay, it can be verbal, right? And physical harm to somebody else. Or even yourself. Or even yourself, because you have some people that, they crazy, they beat up themselves. All of that stuff is part of it, right? So let's talk about what's happening in our community though, because
And before you jump, because I want our listening audience also to understand the dynamics in domestic violence.
Okay.
Because I'm breaking it down in different groups. Domestic, you know what domestic is, I outline it. And you know what violence is, because Eugene just kind of outlined it. Of course, any threatening gesture that could do someone badly harm, that's the violence. So now when we're talking about domestic violence, what do you think domestic violence is all about?
well, what do you mean what is all about? Is it
What is the real what you would consider the real kick behind domestic violence?
I think
because we got to break it down for the
I
audience.
think it's anger, okay? And it's so much different things. Anger, distrust, hate, okay? You have jealousy.
Those are derivative factors that could create the violence.
Yeah.
But basically, domestic violence, guys, is about power and control. Power and control. And if we look at the two words, power and control, let's look at how certain government will work.
You see, and this is where we got Roy here. This is Roy Field.
You don't understand this, but it's about education. Because the only how we're gonna correct this matter is to be educated on the topic. Be educated at how we can best deal with it. Because again, we can't get rid of it. It's a part of us. Domestic violence is part of us. It's our life. We live, and our life gonna have it. It's gonna have conflicts in our. We always gonna have conflict in our lives. That's something that we can't really escape, because the people have different viewpoints.
Right.
Your views might differ from my views. And that's okay if we could accept your opinion. Some people can't accept people's opinion because your opinion might be better than my opinion, and you stick it. So we call those people opinionated, and they feel that their opinion have more weight in the discussion or in the subject area than yours, and your opinion don't mean nothing because their opinion more makes sense.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes when we find ourselves going down the road at having disagreements or having different conflicts in our thought process, then a lot of the time is because somebody might say something, and whatever that person says does not justify or doesn't make sense, or the person talking BS.
Yeah.
And so when you tell me, if I try to explain something to you and you say, man, you just chatting BS, that sends a red flag. That sends a signal to me, like, this person disrespecting my opinion or disrespecting my thought and what I explaining to you, and you dismissing my thoughts. So therefore, my explanation don't mean nothing to you. So you dismiss me. So then I supposed to listen to you, and then whatever you have to tell me, I supposed to swallow that with a pill. And that's supposed to be the Constitution, because you have the answer and the knowledge, and what you're saying is correct, and what I'm saying is BS.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, right? When it comes to domestic violence, also there's a respect level to this as well, right? Now, I want to segue into issues that we having in our community, right? And not only because most of the time the domestic violence is happening women. I don't know if you remember several years ago when you and I were doing our show, is that we had this thing, look, the woman don't belong to you. We have to start getting men to think through these. Okay, you can't expect because she stay out late or she go out with her friends that you gonna punish her, you gonna hit her. Because I'm gonna tell you, we have to understand the individual.
But let's be for real. If your girl goes someplace and she stay out a certain time without responding on calling me, or if I call and especially if I call on the phone and she don't pick up and she don't respond, what is the normal behavior of a man calling his girl? He know his girl gone out to an event. And I calling her on the phone. She don't even have to go to an event. She could have go to a family member. I don't know. But I calling her on the phone and she ain't picking up.
Yeah.
What do you think is common among men? What do you think I gonna think automatically when I
She
call
cheating,
her?
she cheating, she doing
And she
something.
don't
Yeah,
respond.
she doing something that she ain't supposed to be doing.
Yes, man. She cheating or she doing something that she's supposed to be doing, and therefore she want to pick up. That's what we think. So in domestic issues, in relationships, oftentimes trust is your biggest
Mhm.
enemy, and respect also is your biggest enemy. So in relationship in a whole, if you lack trust and respect, domestic violence is going to always be knocking on your doorstep, because those are the two major components that has to have a balance in your relationship. Trust, because oftentimes men and women have a trust issue. Women don't trust the men neither, because what women don't think about men. A man out there and she calling we too. What the first thing she gonna think?
Yeah, you're already doing something.
It's
that
the
you're
same
supposed to be
thing.
doing. But again, right? We have to start realizing to actually manage our anger, manage expectations.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
And
yes.
like we used to say, I used to say all the time, you ain't a man until you get a card. Okay. You don't know what I say.
Yeah, he had man used to go up on the roof and think they could fly.
Yeah. So you have to be able to manage your expectations.
Mm.
If she,
Expect a card.
yeah, I mean,
Expect disappointment.
you are not going. Listen to me. A lot of people are walking around here and feel that they are above.
Or
the
that ain't
rest.
gonna happen to them.
Yeah, ain't gonna happen to them. Trust me, brother. It ain't not only it gonna happen to you, it probably happening to you now.
I
Okay, you don't know. So for me,
You know what if you don't know? If you don't know, you don't
but,
know.
But the point is, right? We need to start managing anger.
Mhm.
Okay, we need to start because over this past, I would say, month, we have had a lot of killings. We had a lot of domestic violence issues.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things I believe when it comes to domestic violence is we need to start learning how to talk to each other. Number
Yes.
one,
The respect.
yeah, the respect. We need to actually learn how to forgive. Okay, forgive.
I think that's the biggest one.
Because if you can't forgive your spouse, and when I say forgetting, forgive. Because that forgiveness,
Can a man forgive his girlfriend if she cheat on him?
yeah, because she gonna forgive you if you cheat on her.
Well, oftentimes men to be the one who does actually go out and do a lot. We don't mess up a lot. I am be frank. We don't mess up a lot. We don't go out and we don't experiment with the wall out there. We don't do it a lot. Because that's the nature in us, men. I'm just being real.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we might be out there and we mess up and eventually we get caught. But at some point we want a girl to forgive us. At some point, we apologize, we become very apologetic, and we want that girl to forgive us because we love the girl.
Mhm.
So yes, we acknowledge we did wrong. We acknowledge we went out and we cheat, but we coming home and we say, man, babes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ain't gonna let it happen again. And our expectation is for the girl now to forgive us and
But
move
listen,
on.
Roy, I got somebody here saying on the live saying men have a guilty conscience. That's why some of them act like that.
Well, guilty. That would any human being, because guilt is something comes to the subconscious when you do something wrong. Now, it got some people might try to block guilt. You understand? Suppress guilt. But to what degree can you suppress guilt? Because guilt is an act when you do something that is not right, not morally right, is not ethically right. And you could confront somebody, and when it's questioned to you whether you do this and do that, it either that you're going to tell her the truth or you're going to again twist the truth. You're gonna twist the truth. You're gonna alter the truth. Oh, like how we say you're gonna say exactly what you're gonna plead the fifth, or you're gonna alter it, or you butter it up to make it sound like it's a good way of getting out of the situation. But guilt is something that affects all of us, especially our subconscious mind, because again, we are only human, and if we do something wrong, that guilt gonna show on our face. But the thing is that you talk about respect, which respect is really a basic foundation to support a good relationship, a healthy relationship. But without the trust, the thing that we have here in the Caribbean is we lack trust in a lot of instances when it comes to relationship, even marriages. Why you see marriages are breaking apart? Because the trust issue. And you know what? With trust now, and I want you guys listen to me, because this is real talk. This is real talk.
That's what it is. Real talk.
Trust comes only in one dynamic. And when you break the trust, there's no way to regain trust. Case in point, you cheat on your significant other. She might forgive you. However, what happened to her with you when it comes to trust? Because now, even though she might accept it, forgive you to move on, remember in the subconscious she's hurt. There's no way on this planet she will ever trust you ever again. Trust is like a shattered glass. If you violate the trust, it's like a shattered glass. I always use that illustration because you might have a glass, it gets shattered, but however, it still could hold liquid content in the glass. But the glass have now lost its natural foundation to hold any liquid form, any liquid substance, because now that glass has been compromised by it being cracked.
Yeah.
So at any moment, something can happen to remove those shattered pieces, and your liquid content can come out of that cup or that glass. So trust is like that. If you break it, it becomes the shattered glass. It becomes a shattered glass. So how could we deal with a shattered glass after we done allow that shattered glass to get a crack? And that's the biggest part of it. So let's look at the basic. Again, remember, domestic violence is about power and control. Again, it goes both ways, people, because don't think it's the men is batterers only. I don't want them to believe that men are batterers.
It's not just physical abuse, it's mental and emotional abuse.
Yes.
Because you may feel that because you ain't hit her or you ain't hit him, you ain't, pick up, do some kind of domestic violence, you ain't commit domestic violence. But if you abuse her, you fat shame her, you fat shame him, you tell him this, that's emotional. That's emotional.
Yes.
And that's part of domestic violence.
I used to teach it, and I go and talk to different groups and the university and thing, and I talk about identify the characteristic of batterers, and I would describe it as we have two types of batterers. We have the pit bull and we have the cobra, and I give the characteristic of each. And briefly, just for conversation, the characteristic of a cobra is a person that is aggressive, impulsive, he's controlling. We know that person, he becomes angry and agitated when he can't get certain things his way, and we know the aggression, and we find that more in alpha males and stuff like that. So they become very aggressive, and guess what? Even with the alpha male type behavior, that behavior that I just described, a lot of women like that. You know why? Because they feel that, hey, this man can protect them, So I'm going into details, but just giving you an overview. Yeah. Then we have the pit bull characteristic briefly. That's a person who when you're talking about the emotional abuse, that's the one that'll find fault, call your name, you're fat, you're ugly, nobody wants you. If you leave me, then nobody gonna pick you up. You can't be without me. And then he's the one that's very apologetic when you do something out the way.
For sure, Roy. And you be using money be a form of
Of coercion.
yeah, because they say that you're using money to control the person.
That's true too. And that you might find that in high value men. So again,
and high value women.
and high value
Because
women.
a lot of women, they got man driving them up and down the place in their car.
What we don't call them? Strong, independent black women that have male characteristics.
Okay.
You understand? So you got some women out there are independent and they have a masculine characteristic about them because they feel that they don't need a man. And so you have that male, that kind of masculine femininity in women. And so a woman like that, she could become bossy. And of course, call a shot because she may not be in the need of you. You understand?
Yeah.
And again, everything is about your wants and your likes and your don't likes. But again, you find that also when you're talking about the money aspect of it, with an alpha male, same thing. So most women will chase after a high figure man, a high value man. Why? Because he have money. And so we're talking about that. So I want to finish out with the pit bull characteristic of the pit bull, but the pit bull person, he's the one, as Eugene said, does find fault, call your names. He will hurt you. He say words to you that will hurt your feelings, lower your self-esteem. He's the one that will say you can't live without him, or he ain't living. We can't. If you ain't with me, you ain't with nobody else. And he's the one that also he will be the stalker. He will try to get you away from friends and he isolates you from your friends and your family or from people because he wants to be in full control of you.
He wants it for himself.
You know, so that's the characteristic of the pit bull. So when we were talking about the alpha male and the independent black woman.
So let me just say, I'll go over some of these comments here on the live, right? You got one person that says she don't forget. She's gonna keep thinking about it and keep feeling insecure about the relationship. When you break, it's like almost impossible to get back. Not saying that you can't, but it's hard to get back. But listen, my thing is this. If you are being abused by a person, remember I say a person because it could be either way. It could be a male
or female
and female relationship. It could be a male and male relationship. And it could be a female and female relationship. So domestic violence is not men and women against each other. It could be men and men, women and women as well. It don't have to be a heterosexual relationship to have domestic violence. And again, even in your family, your parents, some people beat up their parents. Okay? Some people beat up their parents. So that is part of it. But one of the things I want to ask is why they don't just leave. Tell me why they don't leave, Roy.
Because it's hard to live in a situation where you have been in a relationship with a person 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and you have built a bond with a person, you guys have children together or a child together, you guys grew in certain things together. So when you experience domestic violence for the first time, in most cases, when someone experiences violence in the first time or the first phase in their relationship, at that point, let's say the woman is the victim. The man, in this case, is the perpetrator. He's the murderer. Oftentimes, it's a sad situation, but guess what? That first encounter should be the first and the last encounter. Why it should be that way? Because then if the man shows aggression where he used violence to kind of control a situation or to scare you as a person from responding or reacting to whatever the conflict is, then if you stay in it and condone it for the first time, guess what? He might say, oh, I'm sorry afterwards because he beat you up, black up your eye. He might say, sorry, baby, I won't leave it happen again. You get back together. Guess what? You have now allowed that door to open whenever he get in a frenzy, or he get in a mindset where he becomes angry and he expressing himself in a violent way. So the first encounter that you experience, whether it's a man doing it or a woman doing it, once you accept the first encounter and you don't put a stop to it, it's mass after that.
And what is saying?
Mass after that.
You're trapped.
You
You're
get
trapped.
a lot of
You're
people get trapped.
because these people they work hard to keep you in that relationship. What they do is they use the money. They say, oh, well, you can't go to place because your mother don't want you,
Mhm.
or you can't go to place because you can't afford to rent some place on your own.
Mhm.
But guess what, people? There are ways you could get out of these situations. There are ways that you could get out of these situations. Go ahead, Roy.
So,
and we're gonna
so it's
talk about some
basically
ways to help it.
financial.
Yes.
A lot of the time it's financial stability, because again, oftentimes in these cases, a lot of time the man is a breadwinner. He bringing home the money, he paying the bills, and he sustaining the household. So again, for you to walk away from that, it puts you in a situation where now you got to figure out how you're going to support yourself, support your child if you have, or your children if you have. And again, you got to think on the responsibility of that woman at a time. And so she get trapped because now she start thinking on finances. How am I going to live? Can I afford an apartment? Could I afford this? Could I afford that? Am I working enough to make enough money to take care of my children and myself? So a lot of different factors come into play where keep that woman in a condition.
Self-esteem.
That also
I
lost.
have one person here talking about insecurity and poor self-esteem.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then we need to try to find ways. And guys, we're not just saying women, because men also fall into these categories. Men also have these issues. Men have self-esteem issues.
True.
Okay.
True.
Men also have issues with how they see themselves. Okay. Personal image, right? Some people don't like to go out.
How about a woman keep telling the man, you need to do something for yourself. You gotta get up, stop being lazy. Go find yourself a job. Stop working these mediocre jobs.
That's right.
You know, come up to the pump. And you know, even when a woman tell a man that you're degrading him, you're lowering his self-esteem, you're even embarrassing his masculinity. No, because remember, the man supposed to be the provider at the home. The man supposed to be able to sustain his family.
But let me ask you a question. So in the society that we live in now, is that still the norm? Because for me, right, I always believed that. But then when I went into the service, I realized, listen, you got some women in here, you know, just as good as me, or some of them maybe even better than me in certain fields, right? So do we still hold a mindset that the man should be in charge? And I mean, because you gotta look at what's happening, right? Right now in our society, especially in the Virgin Islands, women earning more than men. Okay, so if that is the case, is it good? Educated. So is it going to be a competition between you and your significant other as to who is the smartest, who earning the most? I mean, we need to start thinking about these things, because believe it or not, those things have bearing on this domestic violence issue.
Again,
okay,
do the man feel challenged to know that his significant other makes more money than him?
Yeah.
She might have more degrees,
more education. Yeah.
And so how would that play out for him?
But that's a lot of these things, right? And empathy. I like to use that word empathy because people don't know what I mean. Putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. That's what I mean, right? So for instance, the man don't work. He's a good husband, but you know, he don't work, right? He already looking for a job, and the jobs that he looking for, you know, they ain't really amounting to nothing. Sometimes it's better for you to stay home than work, because the amount of money you gotta spend on dollar bus, the money you spending it's just the lunch, all of these things, you're making more money staying home, right? But guess what? They ain't happening. So she now turns around and start abusing this man verbally, emotionally, right? And it depends on how big she is. She might start abusing the man physically, okay? Because you know you have some people out there. It got some healthy girl. It got some healthy girl out there.
Like that.
Yeah.
When a gentleman called the police, and you know, and first he wanted to call the police, but the wife had him detained against his will. So he tell the wife he going to get something from the store. When he reach the store, call the police. We meet the police by the store, went to the house and push you out.
Wow.
So it all happened.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
so
mad.
yeah, so for me, right, what we need to start doing is we need to start being empathetic with each other.
Mhm.
You know, try to help because a lot of times when you look around our community, you have men on here trying to do things, right? They're busting it behind, but again, using your child or using the children as a weapon is part of
Do you
that
think do you
abuse
think
too.
with what you talking about, sometimes it forces man to go out and involve in illegal activity to make
Of
money,
course,
to make money
exactly.
so that they could support.
Maybe that is one of the root problems, because if she's telling him he need to make more money, she want to walk around with Gucci, she want to walk around with Louis, you know, she
Mhm.
want to walk around with the Tiffany jewelry on and all these
Mhm.
different things, and he can't afford it. He don't want to lose her because, again, maybe a high value woman, a high maintenance woman.
Mhm.
He don't want to lose her. He going on it to thief, right? Guess what?
Not thief. He going hustle.
Hustle.
Well,
They say
he go thief
hustle,
too.
thief, whatever you
Yeah,
gotta do
yeah,
to make ends meet,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But guess what? Suppose you don't want to do it. Suppose
What's
he's saying,
next?
what's next? You fall right back into that abusive relationship.
But then
Okay?
again, why women are choose men who are into that or who has been subjected to that lifestyle? Why do women still choose those men? And that's the question. Why do women still choose men who are aggressive, who are that alpha male
But that's the
that pose
question.
in that,
And we have
that
some people on the
aggressiveness?
live, right? And the question is, and this is for the person I like, why do you choose these men, right, that are gangster type, right? The street guys.
Mhm.
Why do you choose those kind of men and you don't choose the plumber, you don't choose the electrician, you don't choose a man who working for public works?
You don't choose Mr. Bombastic, you want to choose Gino and Bradley and them man. You want to choose Bradley.
They ain't choosing me.
You sharp boy Bradley with the long braids.
They ain't choosing me.
You don't want the nice cut looking guy, but you want the man what look like he fall out of the safari and thing. But
a muffin.
But the thing is that it's, to me, it's psychological, because what prompt women or what attract women to these type of alpha male and male, but perhaps challenged, educationally challenged in a way that they lack the skill set to even do for themselves. And you notice, and you lay down and you get a child or children for this guy, you know the expectation and the end result of it, but you're expecting something different. You're expecting a different result, but you know what the end result going to bring, but you still take the chance and expect it to have a different turnout. And then when the situation dictates to them to in a relationship that is a very hostile, very demeaning relationship, it becomes too late. You got a child involved now. He's not supporting. He leave you. He running other women. So now the child now becomes victim of that because lack of the male figure in the home. And then you, the female, upset with him. So you're going to talk bad about him to the child. And so the cycle start where now this man is no longer have a role in the upbringing of that child. Perhaps the man don't know about the responsibility now because he's not there. He get kicked out. He's been, you know, his attitude has changed now because of the circumstances. And so women, why you do choose these men? And then when you become the victim, guess what? The real good man or the real good men out there that deserve or perhaps might be equally yoked to what you should have looked for, he will never get that respect to get you to coincide with him. And this is where women have major problem with, especially when they meet men who have been abusive in their relationship. Women have a major problem, Eugene, and we're going to talk about it. We're being submissive.
Okay,
So
what are some of the signs? I'm going to give you one.
Yes,
okay?
you give them. Throw them out.
One of them is you're moving, you meet this man, right? or this woman, and they want to move quickly into the relationship. Okay, so you just start dating this person, and you know you want to move in with you, or she want to move in with you. Then she come to your house,
And you're saying that she have been in a bad situation before?
well,
Or she might have been damaged. You're saying she
Yeah.
might have been damaged?
but they want to move too quickly into a relationship. They want to get the ball rolling fast. Okay.
Well, you know why? I could tell you this.
Why?
Most people want to forget and move on and try to find something that can relieve them from that stress factor. Because remember, that in itself can develop stress and anxiety and depression,
Yeah.
sadness. So most oftentimes people want to relieve themselves from those stress factors.
Okay.
So as you say, Eugene,
Mhm.
some people might want to start something right away so that they could forget the past.
Well, guess what? Right? Other one says a person can be charming and may seem too good to be true. Sometimes they are too good to be true.
Yeah.
And these are signs of abusers. These are warning signs. And it's not just one sign, but it's a compilation of these signs, right? The next one is they're extremely jealous and controlling.
That's the pit bull person.
Okay?
That's
Extremely jealous.
That's the pit bull characteristic.
They
Yes.
don't take responsibility for their actions and blame others for everything that's going wrong. Okay? That's control. All right? They criticize their partner's appearance and make frequent put downs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So if you in this category, listeners, you need to change your ways. You need Jesus. Okay? You need to change your ways, right? Their words and actions don't match. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So
Say one thing and do
yeah,
something
they don't
different.
walk, they walk. Right?
Mhm.
So now, Roy, is it possible for them to change?
Change is a concept where they have to, is not just changing, but is reconditioning the outlook and the brain, the way how they think and the way how they look at life and the way how they look at their individual way of doing things. Oftentimes when we in a crisis or we in a disagreement with somebody, we want a person to change. You need to change. I don't like how you're doing. You need to change. And oftentimes, conflict also becomes an action for a reaction, is a reflection.
Yeah.
Somebody did something and you responded after what he do, or she do something and you responded. So oftentimes we measure it and we look at you and blame you and say, hey, you need to change. But we never say that, however, let's look at it. Maybe you acted like that way because maybe I do something or I did something that trigger you or trigger your response. And so, but we're looking for you to change now.
Yeah.
But we ain't looking at the man in the mirror and saying, listen, we have some work to do. The man in the mirror, we have some work to do. Oftentimes here in our Caribbean people, I'm talking to my Caribbean brothers and sisters, we have a certain amount of arrogance and egos, right? Especially males. We have women too, women got them too. But we have this ego in us that we so strong-headed. We so independent in our thinking and our judgment, and that we are correct and we right with most of the things. You find when you meet people like that, they're very argumentative and defensive. I mean, it could be as simple as asking them a question and they just respond in a negative way.
Yeah.
Very defensive, and then when you check them on it, then they're gonna be defensive in their approach. And so you find that arrogance in us. We Caribbean people, we have it. You know it. That's how we live. That's how we don't talk to each other that way. So the way how we respond to each other, because our natural way of speaking to people here in the Caribbean, we just have a really bad way of delivering information on how we talk. And that in itself can create a conflict without you even knowing that they're going to turn a conflict. Something could be simple about bringing home something for someone to eat. And you might take the initiative and bring home something for your significant other and may put something in there that person may not like. And you're not thinking, but you're thinking, listen, I just want to bring home a plate of food so my significant other could have something to eat. But he or she sees something in a plate that he don't like, he gonna go off or she go off. You know, I don't like this. You know, I'm not thinking and saying, well, Lord, thank you for bringing something. Thank you for thinking about me. I'm bringing something because I was really hungry. But instead of thanking the person for what they have done, for the little that they have done, to ease your hunger, you might find something wrong with what he bring home for you to quench your hunger. And instead of you giving him, love and saying thank you for the thought, I really needed this. But honey, next time I don't like this, whatever, but I appreciate you. Hug him and tell him I love you, or tell she you love her. No, you will go after the end like that person have done something so horrific that, hey, I don't eat meat. Why you put this thing?
That's right.
And it, trust me, simple little things like this, trivial things like that creates a conflict. And you do something good and you're not thinking of what you're doing, but you're just trying to do something nice for someone. But instead of they accepting it and receiving it and saying thank you, they find some fault with it. You should not show gravy on the rice. I don't like gravy. Jesus, bread. That's mad. I don't know if any of you have encountered that.
Listen.
But I could tell you, we as Caribbean people, I have encountered it. I bring something and ask still. I don't like no gravy on the rice. Oh, I don't like food on top. I don't like, and whatever the case may be. They will find some fault instead of, saying thank you. And I think what we lack, you're talking about empathy, you're talking about respect. Let's be going back to the word respect, because again, it's about respect. It's about accepting something that someone do for you nice. How often do we tell a person something nice about them? How often do we look at our significant other and say, man, sweetie, you look really nice today. I love you. Do we tell each other we love them at all? Do we use the word love enough?
That's the thing. I witness. I pay a lot of attention to people. I study people. I watch people. I you used to call you Professor or Dr. Roy, but for me, right, I study people and I study behavior a lot. And sometimes if you don't show affection a lot, it becomes, or it's like it never existed. And the time that you want to show affection, the person probably right to then there goes the fight. There goes the abusive behavior coming out. So a lot of times and just like you say, you need to tell your significant other that you love them. You need to wake up, give them a hug in the morning, you know what I'm saying? And you need to, because there have to be some reason why you got with them in the first place. You see what I'm saying? You didn't just pick up with them. You've been with them for 40 years and all of a sudden you want to beat up the woman. No. Or you want to beat up the man. No. You need to keep that relationship going. Another problem I notice with domestic is the environment. So you got in a housing community and you got 8 people living in a 3-bedroom place. Yeah, the environment. Yeah. So what happens now is these people start to act up. They it's like they're confined. And one of the things that I would like to say is that we need to start looking at how we build in our residences in our community. Stop building these multi-level things and got people cramp up. Start giving people their own space. Yeah, that's what people need. They need a space for them to live. And if you don't give them the space, what's going to happen? They're going to get aggravated.
You ever hear that?
And they're going to start.
You ever hear that lovers need a holiday from each other as well?
Yeah. You got to hang out with your friends.
If you crowd them too much, if you crowd one another too much sometimes, it's just like when you corner an animal, the animal will fight to get away from that because the animal will feel that they trap and it pose a danger to them. So they would do anything to fight to get out. So it's same thing like if you find you're trapping your spouse or you're doing things or you're just keeping tab or you because of lack of trust or that build insecurities, you're like every minute, every 5-10 minutes, you're calling to see where she is or where he is, and that could create a lot of different conflict, and of course it could come from one level to the next, and I was really want to segue just when I say the love part, because when we don't sit and show a lot of love, then it builds it. And once you don't show a lot of love, and even the way how we respond and communicate with each other, if love is not in a mixture, then it's the fuel that drive anger and violence. Because now, if you keep calling your partner, or you calling him names, or it's just derogatory comments all the time, or you don't have the trust, because trust is a big thing, or the respect. Once you have now lost that, it's hard for when a person now becomes in a rage. So we would find this and going in when we describe the different battlers, the pit bull, the cobra. And I always used to say that the most dangerous battle is when the pit bull person, who's the one that blame and stalk and do all of that stuff, insecure, call your names and say he can't live without. When he now start to develop the characteristic of a cobra, that's with the mixture, the cobra, the aggressiveness, the impulsive. When he get angry, his heart rate decreases and all that stuff. He's very violent in nature. That person now is the most dangerous batterer, because that's the one that gonna kill. That's the one that will kill you and kill himself. That's the one that is very impulsive. So you gotta know the characteristic of your partner and see the signs, because if he's a person that might have the pit bull characteristics, I'm gonna bring it closer to y'all. Y'all ever heard the word narcissistic or a narcissist person?
One of the viewers pushed that term a little while ago. Narcissist.
If you understand the behavior of a narcissist, now you will understand where I'm going with this. Narcissists could have both characteristics.
This is a very hot topic, but we got 5 minutes.
You got
left.
5 minutes.
We got 5 minutes left. Okay. So we're gonna wrap up. One of the things that we want to push out here, right, is if you have issues, domestic violence, right? First thing you need to do, if you feel that you're going to be targeted, if you feel that your life is in danger, there's 3 numbers you need to call: 911. Do not hesitate. Don't feel that he or she is going to calm down, because just the other day we had this gentleman in St. Croix had a domestic issue with his girlfriend. Girlfriend called the police. Tell the police the man have a gun. Now look what the end result was. This man ended up in a shootout with the police, right? End up with a shootout with the police, and this guy lost his life. Two police, but he lost his life. So you got a problem, 911. Okay. Next thing too, we have the Family Resource Center. And one of the things I want to say about the Family Resource Center, yes, it's a family resource center, but they cater a lot to women. So I'm pleading with the executive director, because I met her this weekend when St. John, we were doing some work in St. John this weekend. And I told her that we got to bring her on the show. So that's the next person. Because we ain't finished, Roy. This is a big topic.
Yes,
so the next time we come back and we talk about domestic violence, we're going to have a professional here with us to have the conversation, because it's very important. This is just guy talk. This is Roy and I. We giving your opinion, but what we want the real people to come in. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to have different people coming in to talk about the topics that we talk about. We're going to have some fun. Guess what? This is the real thing. So we're going to be giving you the information. And contact the Family Resource Center. Family Resource Center, we need groups for men. And if there are groups for men, we need to start pushing these groups for men, because the men in our community are hurting. Okay? Yes. Control the anger. That's right.
And of course, besides those 2 organizations, we also have the opportunity to go to the courts as well as Superior Court. You go file a restraining order on the person if you feel that the person is a threat, and the person might come to your place of residence or your job site and so on, or places that you frequent. again, you could get a restraining order placed on this young man. And of course, restraining order could protect you to a point, but it doesn't protect you in
Yeah.
any instant, because I have known that a lot of people who file for restraining orders, the guy come back and kill them.
Yes.
So restraining order ain't gonna stop a man who is motivated by anger, under the heat of passion,
Lying false
and
witnesses.
yeah, and trust me, because sometimes, and another thing women will do, because they file a restraining order and things calm down, they bring back the guy into the house. You know he's supposed to come back there. You bring him back in the house, you think, and then when he act up again, you call the police and say you got a restraining order. So those are another avenue that you could use to help in a situation. Put counseling. He might get to go anger management, or she got go to anger management classes, and that's good to help him or help her to rethink and to recondition her mind. So use those services. Again, they're out there. And again, domestic violence is serious. It's a part of the way we live. It's a life thing, that because we are human being and we're gonna experience it. So it's something that we're gonna have consistent dialogue and sharing the information as much as we can to help with the situation. But we want to discourage any kind of violence within your home, within your family circle. And again, a lot of this is, again, a lot of people have experienced domestic violence because it become generational as well. Their mother and father was in a lot of dispute, and it passed down from generation to generation. Again, it depends on where you live. A lot of people might live in poverty, alcoholism, or substance abuser. The list goes on and on.
Mhm.
So we want you guys to pay more attention. The two description of the characteristic of batterers, take it into consideration. Use them as a signal and see if it fits your mate. And again, if you see some sign, seek the help now and try to cut this thing in knock it down in the butt before it becomes a major issue.
That's right. So right now, today is the 8th of January. We want to make this a regular podcast. We're looking for sponsors. Definitely, if you want to sponsor the show, we're gonna push this information out on YouTube as well. We have a YouTube channel coming up. So if you would like to be a sponsor of our 1 hour program, it would benefit your business, because even though we just started, Roy and I are very experienced in this area. Right now, I think we're gonna be back. Roy, when you see you coming back, we're gonna do it on the 22nd, or
Yeah, we could do the 22nd.
okay. So right now we're gonna do the 22nd, and as we move on, it might become a weekly podcast. Okay, a weekly event. So right now, this is Eugene Farrell,
Mr. Boombastic.
Roy Chesterfield. I got hit you, Eugene Farrell. Yeah, that's his stage name.
Yeah.
We're gonna sign off for now. Again, this is the real thing, his side. The next time we come on, we're gonna have some more tasty stuff for you.
Relationships.
Yeah, relationship. I want to get that lady for Family Resource Center. You know.
We go get that lady.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about relationships.
But what we could do is give her half an hour, and then we get into our thing.
That's the show. But
Yeah.
let's get relationship, and then we'll get her back in. We'll get her back in. Relationship will.
She gonna call me.
Yeah, well, we can work on it. But again, this is information for you. Again, lock on Wednesdays, The Real Thing with Eugene Farrell and Mr. Boombastic, better known as Roy Chesterfield. And again, catch us. And you will catch me live on radio again, catch me Monday and Saturday, of course. And again, hey, we're going to be doing this for you, and we want dialogue. Eventually, we're going to open the lines at some point, and you're going to be a part of this, and you could see yourself and hear your comments. Again, keep it locked. Again, every Wednesday, we're trying to start from the 22nd on The Real Thing, Eugene Farrell and Roy Chesterfield. So again, have a good night, and we out. Bless. Peace.